Good evening, social change warriors. Welcome back to another episode. Tonight, we have a special guest because we have been fortunate enough to have a new case enter our world. So first of all, I have to go and, it wants me to go live on Twitter tonight. I didn't know it was going to let me do that. So that's a surprise. I've never tried that one before. So we're going to do that if it'll let us. It looks like it will. And then, yeah, we'll remove that one for right now. Save changes. Sorry about that, guys. It wanted me to go live on Twitter, but I'm not going to do that tonight. Let me get rid of this music. This was the background for while we were waiting to go live. I've never tried that before, so I'm trying new things every time we go live, something new every time. So let me get rid of this music for you here. Just gotta figure out where I found it in the first place. StreamYard has a lot of bells and whistles. There we go. All right, there's the new bell and whistle that we implemented tonight. Was the mood music while you were waiting for the live stream to start. So welcome again. Like I was just saying, we have a special guest tonight. We were lucky enough to meet a lovely lady named Cara Veach. And it was completely serendipitous. I was down in New Smyrna Beach, one of my favorite towns where I used to live many years ago, and meeting someone for lunch. Actually, the person who's going to be singing for us for our intro and outro videos that we are working on right now for our YouTube channel. So she's got a beautiful voice. Her name is Tiger, and she is going to sing for us. So we were meeting and discussing what we wanted our song to sound like. And we were at a restaurant, and somehow I started talking to one of the waitresses about YouTube and podcasting and live streaming. And she said, "Hey, what do you do?" And then I mentioned to her, about Social Change Warriors. And for those of you that are new tonight and that have never joined us, we are a nonprofit and we are calling out corruption and crime. So either where I find it or where you see it. And we're trying to bring attention to it, trying to rally your community behind you to try to stomp it out and end the crime and corruption in your towns. We're also supporting victims of murder cases where they are unsolved, whether it be a man or a woman. We're not delving into children at this time. That's a tough one for me. And we just don't have, right now, we have so many cases involving women of domestic violence that we're having a hard time taking on a new case that involves a man or a murder victim that was not part of domestic violence. So that's kind of our avenue right now. That's our lane that we're trying to stay in and stand for the victims of domestic violence. But Cara and I met at the restaurant, my favorite restaurant, because her coworker said, "You should meet my friend, my coworker, whose husband died last year in a suspicious death." So I agreed to do that. And Cara and I have been chatting and talking, and she's been letting me know about her husband. And this is Jason that you see up on the screen, Jason Veach. Rest in peace, Jason. We're so sorry that this happened to you and that your family is hurting and Cara is hurting. And we want to look into your case and see if there's anything that isn't making sense about it. We are not making any accusations tonight. We're not taking sides tonight. I was law enforcement, so I always like to believe that law enforcement does do their due diligence and does always show up and do their best. But we know there are cases where that's not true. We're following the Karen Reed case right now, and we know for a fact, based on evidence and the trial that was already a hung jury, that the police did not do their job diligently, and there were many, many F-ups, pardon the French. Sorry, YouTube. That's as close as I'll get to saying the F word tonight. Police don't always do their jobs, and when they do their jobs, it's usually good. But we do know that there are police officers that should not be certified police officers. They should not be in that position of authority. They do not have the personality suited for it. And some of them go down the dark road of crime. So we are calling them out. We are calling out the politicians that go down the dark road of crime when we are alerted to them. And we're trying to rally the communities in all of these areas to stand behind the people that are being wronged. So Jason, if you were wronged, then we will stand behind you and we will try to fight for you and fight for justice for you. If you were not wronged, then Cara, your lovely wife, and your family will have some peace knowing that we dug into your case and that everything is the way they said it is, right? Because not always is that the case, but sometimes it turns out to be. So tonight we're doing an overview with Cara. I'm going to bring her up here in just a moment. And at the end of the live tonight, I'm just going to give you a brief update on the other victims that we've been standing for since we started live streaming in August. So we have Ellen Greenberg, her case is in Pennsylvania, Sandra Birchmore in Massachusetts, Karen Reed and John O'Keefe in Massachusetts, Suzanne Morphew in Colorado, and Sarah Ebersol here in Florida, who is missing and has never been found, and the missing flyer has never been updated. So I'm going to give you just some mini updates on all those cases at the very end. So if you're not interested in any of those, you can go ahead and just say your goodbyes when Sarah is done with telling us about her husband. So that's our plan for tonight. So I'm just going to go ahead and remind you that we are Social Change Warriors. We are a nonprofit. I do not get paid to be here with you on Wednesdays and Thursdays and other random nights that we live stream. This is my retirement give back to the communities and for wonderful things that happened in my life, and the fact that I really love still using my brain and I love using all of my education. Some people don't like education. They don't need it. Great. If you can find a job or get some type of a career going in the trades or in any occupation that doesn't require education, great, more power to you. I have lots of friends and family, but for me, I've always loved to read, and I've always loved the challenge of studying and learning and passing tests and writing papers. Don't ask me why, it's just in my DNA. So I do have multiple degrees, and I missed using them when I injured my neck as a police officer and I had to retire early. I just didn't know what to do with myself. So after I finished my master's in social work, and I was doing some social work type jobs online and some in person out in the public, I just realized that it's time for me to slow down. My body's not able to do that anymore. And what can I do now? Because I can't just sit at home every day. I don't knit, I don't crochet, I can't play tennis or golf anymore because of my bad neck. So what am I going to do with myself? Walk the beach and ride my bike every day for 24 hours? No. So I came up with the idea of Social Change Warriors, a group of volunteers, a group of people from varying backgrounds and varying education and degrees and experience who can help call out crime and corruption and stand for victims of murder. I'm able to use all of my background and experience, and that's really been helpful to me. So welcome. Thank you, subscribers. Thank you to everyone that's standing with our victims and following us. Tonight's show is typically our Angry Bitch Club, which Wednesdays is what we've reserved for the nights that we usually stand for women. But this was a special case that I wanted to get out and on the air right away. And so next week we'll be back with our regularly scheduled bees buzzing around about whatever topics that you have told me you want to hear about, or topics that I want to share with you. So that's what our Wednesdays are about. And then just to remind you that our Thursdays are about calling out corruption. That is when Amber and I, and now our newest partner, Annette, are going to continue to call out corruption one community at a time. In some cases right now, we have 6 communities going at a time, which is pretty much our limit right now. But we're all about knowledge, power, action, and change. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help you get knowledge, power, and action, which then will lead to change in your communities and hopefully root out the crime and corruption that you are suffering and have been suffering for, I'm sure, a long time in most of these states. So we'll have Ed Byers back coming up here soon. I'll talk about that at the end of the hour as well. And just a quick disclosure about the copyright, just in case you're wondering, there is fair use purposes. So for criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research, I can use videos, I can use police reports, I can use whatever the family's given me permission to use, and I can show you clips of news. I can show you clips of either news articles, or I can show you actually video clips of newscasts or other podcasters, as long as I'm doing it respectfully and I'm not showing their whole show. I can show clips, and it's all for fair use for the purposes of education and knowledge. So I just wanted to let you know that. The content that I'm using tonight is intended for educational, informational purposes only. All the rights to the images, any music that if I were to use any tonight, clips and other materials, belong to the respective owners that I am using in the fair use capacity, or I've been permissioned to use, like in Cara's instance, all the photos of her husband, Jason. I do not claim ownership of any of these. They are third-party content, and Social Change Warriors content, anything that I share with you is my opinion. It is not necessarily the opinion of Cara or my mods, Amber and Annette, who are also my co-hosts most nights. So just wanted to let you all know that. And these views and opinions that are expressed in this deck, remember, they are solely mine. They don't belong to anyone else, and they're my opinion, and that's it. They're my opinion based on court hearings, evidence, facts, research that I've done. But until we actually prove something, it remains our opinions. So that brings us to justice for Jason Veach. What does that look like for Cara and his family? We have a unique situation here where Jason was, he ended up losing his life at a local biker bar. I'm going to call it what it is, because that's what everybody here calls it, because this is Daytona. Where I'm at is Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, Ormond Beach. This is Biker Haven, and we have Oktoberfest in October. We have Bike Week in February, and we have biker bars, and most of them are completely nice, harmless. People have fun. It's like any other bar you'd go in. Some of them can get edgy, so the police have to keep an eye on that. And then you do have your motorcycle groups and their colors, and that can have problems at times, as you all know, because it happens around the country. But for the most part, these are just men and women who love to ride their motorcycles. They enjoy their races. They enjoy camaraderie. They are not harmful to anyone. They're not dangerous to anyone. Always exceptions, of course, but you've got your exceptions in police, fire, CEOs, companies, politicians. There's always going to be exceptions. But in this case, this is a pretty well-established biker bar with a huge history of being very popular and having lots of entertainment, live bands during Bike Oktoberfest. So Jason was there during this time. I believe I'm going to bring Cara up because she knows everything and she's going to tell you, but I just wanted to introduce you to them first. This is Jason and this is Cara. And Jason did not leave the Cabbage Patch alive. And what happened there is what Cara is going to explain to you, because she knows all this information firsthand from the witnesses. I am just learning of all of this in the last couple months. So I'm going to introduce you to Cara, Jason's wife. Cara, let me get you up here and welcome you to Social Change Warriors. Thank you for having us, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for helping me. I appreciate
Absolutely. Yes, we want to help you, because whether we find closure for you, that it is what it is, and there was an issue that the Florida Stand Your Ground law applies, or if it wasn't and we can help you get justice, either way, that's what we're here to do tonight, is just get an overview of what happened. And then from here, you and I will dig into the police reports and we will look at cameras and body cameras, everything we can get our hands on to try to find out exactly why this travesty happened to you and your family and why Jason is no longer with us. So would you just tell us a little bit about Jason? Give us some background, how you met, how long you knew each other, what he liked to do.
We met actually on Facebook. I had posted my favorite song on Facebook, and he had private messaged me that I would be his future ex-wife over this song. And I laughed at him and I said, I'll never be anybody's ex-wife, but maybe I'll be your last. And that was our joke. And it actually, I mean, it happened. It's crazy. But so he was a lineman for 15 years. That was his passion. He loved people. Any storm that came around, I already knew to have the bags packed because he was going to go. That was his thing.
Yeah.
And we rode the motorcycle any day that it was not raining.
He loved it that much, did he?
Liked to ride his motorcycle. It absolutely. We spent a lot of time at the beach. We spent a lot of time in the pool. I mean, it was good times. Good times.
It sounds like you really had a lot in common.
Yes, we did have a lot in common.
That's great. I'm going to pause you just for 2 seconds. For some reason, Annette didn't get the link, so I'm trying to grab the link here and get it to her. I don't know what happened, a technical issue probably, but we're going to try to get her the link again. I'm going to text it to her and I'm going to email it to her. If you're listening, Annette, I'm going to do both. So sometimes we have these little glitches where the person that's supposed to join us didn't get the link. So, and Cara, you got it obviously because you're here. Did you get it via email?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I sent it to all three, you, Amber, and Annette. So I'm guessing maybe because it went to all three of you, maybe she's just not seen it because it looks like it's going to three people instead of just her. So we're going to get Annette in the room here. And Amber is with us tonight in the chat box as moderator. She's not feeling well, guys, so you won't be seeing her pretty face tonight, but we'll have her back next week. Let me just quickly send this email, Cara, and then we will proceed. Sometimes you got to work on the fly when you're a live streamer. Technology doesn't always cooperate with you. And the good things for cell phones, these smartphones, right? It's crazy because I can do double duty here right now while you and I are still talking, and I can send this away. And then we'll get Annette to join us because you met her last night when we had our conference call. All right, there we go. Link has been texted and emailed. So you met, you got along, you were having a good life, you had a lot of fun together. So what exactly happened the day, what was going on with Jason the day that this altercation happened at the Cabbage Patch?
So, well, it was like, I never believed in fate. I believe in fate now. Is the one time that I wasn't with him. I actually had to go to a bridal shower, so I was out of town, and he was just out riding with friends. There was a couple that we used to ride with all the time. He met up with them.
Okay.
And had lunch at Saints and Sinners in Ormond at the Teddy Morrison Harley Davidson shop. And then after that, they went to the Dog Pound in Port Orange, which I don't know. It's another little small bar. It's a sports bar. And they went there for a couple of drinks and they ended up at the Cabbage Patch. When they got there, I guess he ordered a round of shots. It would be my guess for everybody. And he took all of them right there at the bar. The bartender gave them to him and he took every single one of them. So he was highly intoxicated. And the couple that we were with were arguing, I guess, because I don't know what they were arguing over. I guess I just had heard they were arguing. And Jason and some guy at the Cabbage Patch got into an argument. And the couple that we were with ended up leaving him there while he was arguing with this guy. So he eventually, the bartender did kick him out and told him he had to go, which again, he was highly intoxicated.
Not unusual, right? I mean, so far, none of that's unusual. The couple was probably somewhat intoxicated too. And we all know that when people drink too much, the littlest things cause arguments. That's 100%. Just happens all the time.
Absolutely. And again, Jason's behavior at all. I don't think it's okay. But so eventually they finally did tell him he had to leave and not to come back. And the owner of a bar right down the road from the Cabbage Patch, Sorry Charlie's, Charlie knew Jason very well. And he told him to go hang out at Sorry Charlie's, sober up, yada, yada. So Jason goes there for a brief time.
Okay. And that's just right down the street, right?
6 minutes. It's 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Yep. I know where it is. I've driven by. I've never been there, but I know where the Cabbage Patch is too, because I've lived in the Volusia County area on and off since 2009. So I know where all of these places are. I've just never been personally inside of any of them.
Yes. So he's at Sorry Charlie's. He does not drink anything while he's there. I don't know how deep you want to get into it.
It really helps to have background and context as to his frame of mind, what he was thinking, what he was doing, what other people around him were doing. Yeah, it's all very helpful. Thank you.
So while he was at Sorry Charlie's, there was a call for a noise complaint and officers arrived on scene.
Okay.
One officer arrived, backup was on its way. And while she was there assessing the noise complaint, the employee there asked her multiple times to please not allow Jason to ride his motorcycle because he was extremely intoxicated and had laid it over.
Okay.
She was annoyed by it. You could tell I don't agree with her behavior on that. But
now, while you finish telling, I'm going to see if I can pull that up and I'm going to see if we can play it. So you go ahead and continue to talk about the what happened with this officer at Sorry Charlie's. I'm going to go in my email and see if we can pull that up.
Okay. So the employee asked her multiple times to come over and talk to Jason, not let him ride his motorcycle. And she does. She was very annoyed by it. She walks over to him. She acknowledges how extremely intoxicated he is, tells him that he shouldn't ride the motorcycle, and where he responds to her that he is going to ride it. The key turned on in the bike, the lights are on. She acknowledges how drunk he is again, and she says, hey, I'm trying to save you from getting in trouble later on down the road. And she turns around and she walks away and she leaves Jason. And her backup arrives. She speaks to the backup. I don't know what is said. I don't know if they left before Jason or Jason left first. That one I don't know. But Jason left and he ended up going back to the Cabbage Patch.
Okay.
So when he gets back to the Cabbage Patch, he goes inside and he's yelling in the bar, from what I've been told. Yelling in the bar, causing a disturbance. And yelling over politics, to my knowledge, from what I was told he was saying. He was talking about being the baddest Republican around.
Okay.
And again, I don't condone it. I think he was being stupid, but doesn't justify what transpires. So the bartender decides that he's caused enough of a disturbance, and she calls 911 and tells them, hey, you know, I got a customer here that's causing a disturbance. He's a pretty big guy and he's yelling in the bar, and he is, I guess, yelling at two guys sitting at the bar or something along those lines, talking his whatever. And one of the guys gets up from the bar and he walks outside and he grabs a hatchet and he comes back in and he puts it to Jason's throat. When he does that, Jason grabs him and he slammed him down on the pool table next to the bar. So when Jason slammed him down onto the pool table, the guy's buddy that he was with, and the number is debatable, it's from two men. The 911 caller states that 6 men grab Jason and they slam him to the ground and they're holding him down. And that's what they said. They said that he struggled to get up. He was doing push-ups trying to get them off of him, and they did not let him up. And they strangled him and choked him to death. So it's, again, I guess I'm very biased on the situation. Obviously,
Of course, yes.
I don't think any of it makes sense. I want to know. They're calling it stand your ground, I guess, and this is where this comes in. What they're saying is that it was self-defense on Jason's end. Jason was defending himself from the guy that brought a hatchet in and put it to his throat. So he was in defense of himself until he knocked the weapon out of his hand. Once Jason knocked the weapon out of his hand, they said that Jason was no longer defending himself. He was there then, the aggressor and the assailant. I think that's very awful to say that they get to decide that he wasn't defending himself anymore. And it wasn't 30 seconds before 6 men had jumped on him and knocked him to the ground. So he was the assailant. So therefore, they are using stand your ground because they were protecting the guy that, in fact, assaulted him with a deadly weapon.
Yep. So I'm going to pause you for a second because we've got some good chat going on. And thank you so much to everybody who's here live. We really appreciate it because your feedback is very important and helpful. The more eyes that you get on something, the better it is. You know, the old thing about you can never have too many people looking at something. So first of all, thank you for your willingness to admit that your husband wasn't exactly behaving himself that night, right? That day. So number one, he was drinking too much. Number two, he was driving while he was drinking. And then number three, he decided to be somewhat verbally combative in what he knows to be is a bar that is loaded with guys, with testosterone and drinking and alcohol. So 3 things that happened that were not good, that shouldn't have happened probably, that helped lead to this really bad situation, correct? But does that mean he deserved to be tackled and put on the ground and held in a chokehold and then inevitably died of asphyxiation? Absolutely not. Does that mean that stand your ground is applicable here and that no one should be held accountable for the fact that he's no longer with you and your family? We don't know that for sure yet, but we're going to dig into it and we're going to help you find out and figure it out. So let me go back up here. I've been putting up your comments, everybody. Julie says that sounds very excessive force-ish. Where did the hatchet come from? Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, a lot of the people that come to that bar, they live out in the country. It's all horse country to the east, to the west of us. So New Smyrna, Daytona's north of New Smyrna, then you've got Ormond. So that's the Volusia County beach strip. It's all beach, beach towns, cute little Florida beach life. And then you come across the bridge, then you're on the mainland of these 3 towns, which is city-like. They're New Smyrna's like 34,000. Daytona's got to be at least up to 70 now. Ormond might be 40. So it's a lot of people in a very small little stretch called Volusia County. Then Volusia County stretches out into horse country all the way over towards Ocala, Orlando, DeLand, DeBary, if you guys look on a map. And so a lot of people that go to this bar, because it's on the way outskirts of New Smyrna, it's actually even on the other side, the west side of the 95 interstate. They live out there in the country. There's a lot of properties out there with a lot of space, and a lot of people have horses and goats and chickens and you name it. So a lot of people are living on farms, living in rural communities, and he very well could have had a hatchet in his car, in his trunk. He might have been chopping down, vines or brush or whatever. So that doesn't seem that unusual to me. The fact that he went out to get it is the big problem, right? Because you never want to bring a weapon into a bar in the first place. And how is it that the bar staff didn't alert, like, hey, dude, you're out of here. You can't have it in here. What happened to that component of it, right? So until we actually see the actual police report, because all we got is redacted right now, I requested the full police report today from Volusia County Sheriff because the case is closed. So they should have no problem giving it to me, because I want to see the witnesses. I want to see the interviews with the staff at the bar and what they were witnessing and how many people was it. We've heard it was 2 or 3, or you've heard 6. How many people actually tackled your husband? And when the guy came back in with the hatchet, what in the world? Why wasn't he being tackled? Why wasn't the dude with the hatchet being tackled and being taken outside? And the 911 call, I'm assuming, was already in progress.
Yes, ma'am.
So the police are already on their way. So we're dealing with a lot of questions here. Like Emily Baker, she is a lawyer that covers true crime and covers trials. And she always says, I have questions. So I am certain that everyone in our chat box who's watching live with us tonight has a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I can't wait to read this police report. So Julie says, exactly, he went out to get it and brought it inside. So yes, that's an act of him doing something that involves a weapon. And he didn't need to do that because there were already plenty of people helping to restrain your husband. So why the need he felt to go out and get a weapon, that we don't know it right now because we don't have the police report yet. So let's see here. Amber, thank you at Destiny Bailey. Even if two with the hatchet against one doesn't seem right, but we definitely want to get to the truth. Okay, let me go back up and see what Destiny has to say. And thank you for coming tonight, Destiny. Let's see here. The man left the bar, walked to his vehicle, and came back into the bar. Now, Destiny, I'm curious. Do you know that because you're friends with Cara, or do you know that because you were there? I really would love to know that. That would be very helpful to me. Let's go back. There's a discrepancy if it was 2 to 6 men, depending on what you were viewing. Report transcripts. Very interesting. Thank you. And I think that's what Cara already told me, that depending on what you're reading of the reports or of the rumors that went out, it was 2, it was 3, was it 6? So that's something we have to get down to the bottom of as well. And Cara, I think I texted you this, but I did call the Cabbage Patch today, and I asked to talk to the owner. I said I had a few questions about the death investigation at his establishment. I wanted to know if it was true that they were still allowing colors. And for those of you that do not ride motorcycles or are not in motorcycle clubs, every motorcycle club has colors. So they wear their vests and there's colors. A lot of bars don't allow that because it leads sometimes to arguments, or it leads to boastful testosterone issues happening with these men and some women wearing the colors. So in fact, all the bars in Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, Ormond Beach, no colors are allowed. So you have to leave your colors in the car if you plan to come into this establishment. I'm not just going to sit here and say that he for sure allowed colors, because I don't know that. I'm not saying I don't believe you, Cara, but I have to verify and vet everything that you tell me.
Absolutely.
So I've already left a message for the owner of that establishment to contact me. Now, that bar has been in existence since 1954. So they have never been shut down for any type of issues with violence or having bad, terrible things happen. They have a rep. I'm not going to lie. I've lived down here since 2009, off and on. They have a reputation. There have been bar fights there. But there's been bar fights at like normal bars that you would never, I say normal, meaning not an actual bar that attracts just a certain kind of crowd, right? We have all kinds of bars. We have sports bars that attract the sports enthusiasts. There's bar fights at those. They can be there anytime. I broke up a bar fight at a what I would consider more of a dinner club type place once, that I was stunned. I'm like, what is going on here tonight? How is this happening? Wherever there's alcohol and there's people that want to get angry and nasty and mean, you can have a bar fight. That's the 1 + 1 = 2 rule of alcohol, bars, and humans. So this is a very reputable place in and of fact that it's been around since 1954, and it has a really good reputation for good food, good service. They have lots of live bands. So it wasn't as if your husband was entering into a den of danger, you know, a bar that had a rep for being dangerous where other people had lost their life. So that wasn't the case either. So hopefully they'll call me back and let me ask them a few questions about this. I made it very clear that there was no accusations going on that they did anything wrong. I said, I just want to know some things to clear up as we look into the death of your husband. Amber says, Florida, if Florida said Ashley Benefield wasn't stand your ground, how in the heck is 6-on-1 with a hat should justify? Well, Amber, that's a good, I did not think about the Ashley Benefield case. That's right. They did try to go, that's right. I forgot about that they were using the stand your ground for that. Sorry, guys, I'm still battling these nasty COVID symptoms from when I was in rehab, and I just lose my voice every once in a while, so I have to keep taking drinks. So let's see what else we have going on. I want to make sure if there's any questions. Annette, let me bring you up. Actually, now I don't see you. I had you, but I don't see you anymore. So if you want to come back in the green room, I'll bring you up on the stage. She says, I can tell you in South Carolina, the bartenders avoid calling police because it puts marks on the bar. Yeah, true. Because if there's a police call, it has to be depoted. A deposition, you guys, is when no police report is necessary. But when you go to a call and it just turns out you do not have to write a report for whatever reason, it was something that just wasn't really anything that needed a report, it still has to have what's called a deposition. And a deposition is something you write in your squad car. It goes into the system. Who, what, where, when, why, how. That's it. That's all there is to it. Most of the time, you need a full police report, but there are cases where you don't. And I don't know if every state calls them the same, but in Wisconsin, or at least in Madison, where I was an officer, we called them depositions. So there's always going to be a record of a police call, or there should be. The police should never go anywhere that they were sent by dispatch or that they informed dispatch they were going without either a deposition or a police report. And there she is. There's our reality check. Let's be good to see her face again. I haven't seen her in a while. Hi, how you doing?
Hello. You're not going to see my face. I'm in my jammies and I'm still recovering.
That's okay. We've had a lot of sickness spreading around the social change warriors, and we're not even all in the same place, but we've all had our moments, haven't we, the last couple of weeks? So, yes. Okay. Well, welcome. And do you have any questions of what we've covered thus far, Annette?
Well, some of the stuff, the initial video, when I watched it, the officer wasn't even called there because of your husband. They were called there because there was a noise complaint.
Correct.
And she approached him and she asked him, the guy that was standing there told her that he had dumped his bike.
Correct. Yes.
Now that, just so you know, Annette, though, that was the first time that he had contact with the police. The police were called to the Cabbage Patch because of Jason. When he got to the Cabbage Patch, that's where the other incident ensued. Correct. So there were two. The first police call where Jason had nothing to do with him, but he serendipitously got contacted by the police. So there are two separate police contacts of Jason on that day.
Yes. So do you know from watching the video who the gentleman was that was standing beside him next to his bike?
I don't know him. I know his name now. Actually, I know the name he goes by is Ghost. Because somebody had told me that they had known him from Charlie's. He wasn't a friend of Jason's. He was just standing there talking to him at his bike. That's what I was told. We don't know him at all.
Okay. So we need what we're going to need for the case file, which is this Google Doc that I'm using. I'm putting everything you're giving me into this Google Doc. So whenever something new pops up, write it down and send it to me, and I'll add it to the Google Doc. So we constantly have this case file building that we will use and need as we go forward in the next couple months with this. So I want to thank your friends and supporters that are live with us tonight. Thank you so much for coming and supporting Cara, and you're welcome. I'm very happy to do whatever I can do that's in my abilities to do. So we have 6 other cases right now that we are part of, Social Change Warriors. They're all currently active, and it's a little overwhelming. So I have to tell you, Cara, today I I haven't been able to drive because of this knee surgery. So today was my first day driving my car again. It felt really good. I took myself over to the beach. I calmly watched the ocean for a little while, picked up my girlfriend. We got a coffee, and I just literally broke out in tears as soon as she got in the car, because she's kind of my comfort. She's really my only friend here in this area, because I go back and forth so much from Wisconsin. I don't really have any real friends down here. I just have acquaintances, but she and I have been friends for years and years and years. And the minute she got in the car, I just broke out in tears, because I've just been overwhelmed with all of your grief, like Ellen Greenberg and her family, and Sandra Birchmore and her family, and now you and your family. And now we're up to like 6 open cases. And my grief load was on high alert today. And it was really reminding me how important self-care is, that I can't help you if I'm not taking care of myself. So I want to remind you and your friends and family, while we go through this process now, where we look into this and dig into this, and there's going to be questions, there could be media, I don't know what's going to happen, but make sure you're taking care of yourself, because you're still grieving the loss of your husband. And this is not easy, to look at his autopsy report again and talk about all this hard stuff that we're going to talk about in part 2 next week. So I just want to remind you, please take care of yourself. Please rely on your friends and people that love you to support you. And that goes for all of you in the live chat too. When you follow these type of cases and you get invested in helping people and standing for people, it's very taxing. It can be very wearing on you. So you got to continue to take care of yourself, because we can't get justice for people if we lose sight of ourselves and what we need for our own well-being. So I just wanted to remind, I have to do my social work. Preach, you guys know that I have to do that every live, because that's who I am. So I can be the cop, but I also have to be the social worker, because it's very important in this venue of murder cases and death investigations that you continue to take care of the living, because we have to keep living. Sometimes we don't want to. I lost my dad when I was 19 to cancer. I felt like I didn't want to be here for a while. Not suicidal. I'm sorry, YouTube. Not wanting to unlive myself, but very sad and very just despondent about everything that was going on in my college life, because nothing seemed the same without my father. So I do know what true deep grief feels like, just on a father-daughter level, opposed to a spouse-wife level. And I know how it can be so overwhelming. So we're here for you. We've got your back. And however this turns out, whether it is proven that Stand Your Ground was acceptable, or it wasn't acceptable, and we go forward and try to get this overturned, it's going to be a long road, and I want you to be prepared. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Cara,
anybody else have any questions before Cara goes forward? Yeah, go ahead, Annette.
Okay, Cara, I have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the questions I have is, have you had an opportunity to look at the police report that Kat was finally able to get?
No, we didn't get it yet. I just asked for it today.
The one that you had, that you shared with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we know who called in then. It was a person named Dawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had?
No.
You haven't had a chance to talk to her.
Nope. I'm pretty sure that's the bartender at the Cabbage Patch. And
right.
Yes. No.
And then the other question. So there was a couple that was there together that were questioned. And then there's somebody that they say other. Do you think that the other person is the one that had the axe?
Yes.
Okay. And why? I'm wondering why. I mean, Kat, maybe you can answer this. Why did they redact the part about the axe? Because that seems to be a major thing in the police report, that they redacted the information about the axe.
Right. So it was redacted while the case was still ongoing. And that's because the case was ruled a homicide by the ME, right? By the coroner's report, the ME. So it was ruled a homicide. It was being investigated as a homicide. So while it was an active case, they can redact anything that they think would cause problems for their investigation. So remember, we still only have the redacted police report, even though the case is considered closed. Cara's never received it. And I just obviously met her not that long ago. So I just requested it today. Now that the case is closed, there should be no redaction. So
Okay.
it should be in there now. So once we get that, we're going to wait and do part 2 until we get that police report. So it may be 2 weeks
Okay.
before we meet again, because we've got a lot of work to do in the next 2 weeks. And we don't want to try to come back live without any more information or new information for our guests. So once we get that, we're going to be able to have a lot more, we're going to see a lot more questions that will be answered. Now I'm going to try to play. Oh, go ahead, Annette.
So did they give you an explanation, Cara, as to if the coroner ruled it a homicide, why they didn't pursue that? Did they give you an explanation for that?
Well, they didn't tell me it was a homicide ever until I found it out for myself. They actually pushed that Jason had died he was going to die of cancer, and they tried to justify him dying as he was very sick. So
let's explain that. Yeah, Cara, thank you for bringing that up. Let's explain that to the live audience. So when you got the coroner's report, you were a little bit shocked, correct?
Well, yes, because the detective had came to my house. Not even, well, he's the one that made it a red flag for me to be like, I need to go get the death certificate. So he came to my house, and the first thing he had asked me was, hey, have you spoke to the coroner? And I hadn't, because every time I called, we can't give you anything. It's an open investigation. That's how it's going.
Right.
So he came to my house, and he explained to me that Jason was very, very, very sick. He was a very sick man. He was obese. They found stage 4 colon cancer, and he was very bad off. And he made it. I'm going to say it like that. He was justifying Jason dying. He never ever mentioned homicide by asphyxiation. Never one time, not once. So
was he at your house? Did he come to your house?
He came to my house and sat on my couch and told me this. Yes.
I'm a retired nurse. I'm a retired nurse, and I actually looked at this coroner's report, and I did see that they said he did have basically colon cancer. It had gone into the lymph nodes surrounding the colon area, but it hadn't metastasized to anything other than the lymph nodes around that area, according to the report I read. Now, I just skimmed it. I have to go back and really dig into it more. But I did see where he said that there were abrasions and damage to the muscles on the side of his neck, the muscles surrounding his trachea, more so on one side than the other. There were damages to the muscle on one side of his temporal area that runs from your eye. Well, it actually runs from like right below your ear all the way back behind your ear. And the doctor did not say he died from the cancer. He did have cardiac issues. I mean, but he had a 50% and I think a 60% block in one area and 30 in the other. But people have lived a lot longer than that, long periods of time with that kind of a heart condition before any of that has caused a termination of their life. So justifying that he had cancer does not explain how he died.
I agree. And I asked him that as soon as I got the death certificate and it showed homicide by asphyxiation or asphyxia, I immediately called him and I was like, what in the absolute bad words? And he said, well, it's stand your ground. And they did nothing wrong in my eyes. So it had gone from, and in the beginning, I do understand in the beginning that they thought it was an accident, that he had a heart attack, and again, I overthink everything now because I'm on the losing end of it. Like, how do you walk into a bar and see 2 to 6 men on top of somebody holding him down in a chokehold and you're saying that he had a heart attack? Like, of course, I look at it that way now. So in the beginning, it was a heart attack, and then they were justifying it by sickness. He was so sick, he was going to die. And I actually had to tell the detective, like, stop telling me that he was a sick man, because I lived with him every day. I saw him get up and go to work, a lineman. He went out in the heat every day and worked on power poles. He wasn't sick, so you can't tell me he was a sick man. And then once the report came back that it was homicide by asphyxia, Then it was, well, it was stand your ground. They were in fear and they were defending that guy that Jason had attacked. The guy that he attacked because the guy put a hatchet to his throat.
Okay, Cara, I'm going to stop you right there. It was really good information and it was solid. I mean, you obviously know from all the different witnesses and things that you've been told. That was really good sharing and solid information. I want to go back just a minute. I want to jump backwards a minute and then we'll come back forward to the whole hatchet situation with this unknown gentleman who hopefully will be in the police report when we get it. Integrity Cat Rescue, thank you so much for coming tonight. And you said many people failed Jason. And I agree with you. It sounds like he was overserved at 2 different bars. And then we have the situation with the female officer that probably, in my opinion, I'm going to try to play the video. I'll tell you my opinion on it because it's a fine line for police when we approach someone who's been drinking and they're not actually driving. So I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt that she was trying to do her job. She was very kind to him, actually, from what I could hear in this what was recorded. But could she have done more? Probably. So let's see if we can share this. I'm new at all this technology stuff, so you guys are going to have to let me know if you can hear this, because once I go to this screen, I don't see you guys anymore. So I'm going to hit play. Let me know if you can hear it.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes. Can you see this?
Yes. For about a minute and 45 seconds of this is her just driving in her car. I don't know if you want to fast forward it till she gets to
No, let's just watch it out, because it's not often that we get to see this. This is an in-car camera, dash cam. So this is the officer. She's a Volusia County sheriff, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she's responding to the call, which was a noise complaint. Cara actually sent me the 911 call, and I'm going to try to pull that up too. The gentleman that, and I'll tell you this while this silent part is on. The gentleman who made the noise complaint lives next door to this particular bar. And it's apparently when their doors are all open, and in Florida, doors are open all the time. Garage doors are open on bars. People are outside. Music plays outside. Sports bars, the TVs play outside. This is Florida. People that live near these places usually are used to it or get used to it. But he was upset because it was extra loud. He's an elderly gentleman. He called the police. I listened to the whole 911. He was very respectful. The dispatcher said it was just too loud, unbearable today, and he needed some peace. So she is responding to a noise complaint of a bar making too much noise. And so this is where she ends up contacting the bar owner first, and that's what you're going to hear talking about the noise complaint. The gentleman asked to remain anonymous, which I thought was interesting because he said he was concerned about blowback from the owners of the bar and from the patrons of the bar. So, okay.
Kat, can you pause it for a second?
I think so. Yep.
Can you also explain what time of year this was and what was going on in the area?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Annette. So this is in October. And in October, Volusia County has what's called Bike Oktoberfest. And it's a really fun event for bikers. They come from all over, just like they do. In February is Bike Week. And that's when they have the motorcycle races at the Daytona 500 track. And then Bike Week and Race Week are right back to back. So it's a lot of people here in February. And then in October is this special, what they call Bike Oktoberfest. And it's very, people are decorated for the fall. They're decorated for Halloween. There's usually not a lot of problems. I mean, I had a couple friends that were officers here back when I first moved here in 2009. There were some arrests, there was some drunk driving. Sadly, there's usually some crashes, and there's some bar fights, but it's really well managed. Most of the bars that participate in Bike Oktoberfest, they've been doing this forever. In this case, the Cabbage Patch since 1954. So it's really a joyous time for bikers and those that love, the motorcycle world and enthusiasts. So that's what was going on at this time. Okay, thanks, Annette. Great observation. So she parked across the street, which is typical for law enforcement to do. She left her cruiser across the street.
Hello. How are you? All right. So we got a noise complaint. So I was sitting over there for a minute. I can hear it a little bit in that parking lot, but it's only coming from your front door. So I don't know if you want to just turn it down a little bit or maybe close the door because I don't hear it. I was driving to see where else I can hear it from, but we did get a complaint for it, but it's not
keep an eye on that guy sitting on his bike.
Mhm.
You don't need to be riding. He just tipped it over.
Oh, fabulous.
Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that because he's not very loud. He said, keep an eye on that guy over there on his bike. Okay, he just tipped it over and he doesn't need to be riding. Could you all hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I heard that. And what time of day was this? How many hours was it before the incident?
Well, the time up here says 17:30, so that would be 5:30.
But that is her body cam footage is wrong from the 911 call. It starts at 6:55.
Okay.
So
okay.
It says 7:13 to 7:22 is the actual time frame from when she arrived to when she closed her case. Or so sorry, body cam
7:13 Eastern time, right?
7:13.
Okay, got it. All right, let's keep going. Just want to make sure you guys could hear him because on my end I can hear it great, but I wasn't sure how it was coming through for all of you.
But also,
Like I said, it's not crazy. I'm literally only hearing it coming from out the front. But it's enough that I can hear. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
just turn it down a little bit.
Doors closed, so, but yeah, I'll.
Because like I said, coming around here, anything, I don't hear it at all. It's mainly just sitting right in front. So say, if you want to close the doors and or just turn it down a little bit.
Yeah, I'll close them up.
But
yeah, you don't need rods.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, Cara. I know this is rough for you, okay? So if you need me to pause or you need a break, let me know.
Nope, you're good.
Nice bike. Hello, nice bike. What happened?
What happened to what?
Your side carrier?
Side carrier?
Yeah, it's not a bag. Well, the plastic bag version. It's all scraped up. I was asking what happened.
That happened weeks ago.
Just asking what happened. It was just simple coming over to say hi.
No, I'm just telling you.
Okay. All right. Well, just thought I'd come by and say hi. We got to complain about music, so I stopped for that one. All right. You going to leave it here parked overnight?
No.
Are you going to let somebody else ride it? Because if not, you're going to end up going to jail for DUI. I can smell it.
How you want to go down?
How do I want what to go down?
How do you want it to go down?
I'm trying to help you from going to jail. So I highly recommend. You've been drinking. I can smell it. So I'm asking you nicely, either leave it or have somebody else take it so you don't go to jail.
You think I'm going to have somebody else take my bike?
Listen, everybody's different. There's no reason for an attitude. I'm trying to help save so you don't go in handcuffs.
No, there's no attitude.
Okay. Well, at least your buddy can understand me just fine. So maybe so he doesn't end up having issues with fines and jail and whatnot. It's a great idea. Come on, Bravo 52 Central. Music's been turned down. Let's go for it.
Okay. So
Being a cop, Kat, I want to ask you this, Kat. Being a cop, the fact that he was sitting on that bike, with the keys in it and the lights on, he should have immediately been arrested for a DUI, and none of this would have happened.
In Wisconsin, yes, but again, I was not an officer in Florida, so I have to look at the law here, and it's in my notes to do so. So I'm not going to say that the officer did anything inappropriate yet because I don't know. In Wisconsin, absolutely, if you are behind the wheel of your vehicle, whether it's the engine starting or not, if the keys are in the ignition, you're behind the wheel, the lights are on or off, because if it's daylight, the lights don't matter, but it's the keys. If you're sitting behind the steering wheel of your vehicle and the keys are in the ignition and we smell alcohol in your breath, we have probable cause to do field sobriety. Now, some officers can lean towards the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, right? So they can say, hey, you're not driving yet, but you're drunk and it looks like you're about to drive. I'm going to help you out tonight. I'm going to take your keys. I'm going to lock up your car. I'm going to call you a cab. All right. That's the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. Other officers are just going to say, you know what? Screw it. It's your problem, your fault. You're the one who got behind the wheel of your car. I'm taking you for field sobriety. And if you're drunk, you're drunk. You're getting arrested for drunk driving, because the law allows you to do that because you're already behind the wheel of your car. That's intent. That shows intent to drive the motor vehicle. Now, I don't know what the Florida law is because we got to go with state versus federal laws again. So I will find out what the Florida law is for intent to drive a motor vehicle. And good question, Annette. So that'll all be looked into, his intent to drive. And then should she have gone further? I will say, I thought she handled the whole call very well. I mean, she was respectful to the bar owner. She didn't get sassy with him, handled it. She was respectful to Jason, she tried to do small talk, which a lot of officers will do. Like, hey, what happened to your bike? It looks like you hurt, you got a scratch there on your bag. I thought her community service type work with him was really good. She tried to reason with him. She tried to talk to the friend. I thought she was respectful. I really see nothing wrong with anything she did. But if the law in Florida is that she needed to tell him that he had two choices, either you turn those keys over to me, I will make sure that, your bike, we'll ask the bartender if your bike can stay here, or you can call your wife, or you can call a friend, but you cannot, I'm not leaving here and watching you get on that bike and drive off. I personally think that's what she should have done. Not sure why she didn't do it. I'd be interested to talk to her if that's possible. I don't know. So chat, let's go into everybody who's in the chat right now, who cares about Jason and Cara, and who cares about justice, and who's here for justice for, all of our victims that you've been coming to our channel and supporting us. What are your thoughts? Let's get those. I want to put them up. So please tell us what you're thinking about that, about how the officer handled the call. Should she have basically said, you're not driving home tonight, sir. I'm telling you no. Either you're going to get arrested right now for obstructing me, or you're going to give me your keys and we're going to phone a friend, because that's what should have happened. He should have never been able to leave on that motorcycle, which then means he would have never gone to the other bar drunker than a skunk and got in an altercation, which led to his death. Amber says, at Kim Schuster, thank you for joining and supporting. Florida Stand Your Ground has been an issue for a very long time. It's been an issue since the Trayvon Martin case happened in Sanford, Florida in 2005. And in part two, we're going to talk more about that, because that was a very traumatic case for Florida, very traumatic case for this young man who lost his life and his family. And to this day, I don't agree with any of what happened with that case. That man should have gone to jail. That's my opinion as a former police officer. But we will talk about that case, because that was a very monumental case and a very horrible, tragic death of a young boy who was doing absolutely nothing wrong. So we will talk about that, because that is important. Was anyone charged? Thank you, DB. No, not yet. That's why we're here. We're going to find out if someone needs to be charged. Let's see. I want to go back up and see if I missed anybody's questions? Oh yeah, Destiny, compassion fatigue is real. Absolutely. There's research upon research. All you have to do is type in compassion fatigue and a gazillion journal articles will come up. I wrote some papers on it when I was getting my master's degree. I've had it when I was a police officer. I've had it now while I've been doing this. It's real. Trust me, and you have to be very careful. Amber says to you, Cara, and thank you for joining us and telling us about Jason and what happened. We will help in any way that we can. So, and thank you, Amber. If you can hit the like button for us, that helps our algorithm. It helps push out Jason's story. Again, I'm not monetized, so this is not about money. This is just about pushing out all of our victims and our victims' families that we're standing for in our volunteer efforts. So if you can tell your friends and family to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Twitter X, and like the button, hit the like button. That really helps a lot to push us out. What also helps, as long as I'm telling you guys all this, is if you go make a comment on the replay. I don't know a lot about this YouTube live streaming yet, but I guess by making comments on the replay, that also helps push us out into the YouTube stratosphere. So anything we can do to get attention to your family member and your victim is what we will do.
Kat,
so yeah.
You didn't play all the way to the end. the one thing I think people should know is another cruiser came up and that officer never said anything because
I
she
was
may
playing
have
it. You guys didn't see it?
It's
no.
because cut it off when they start talking, so you don't hear what they say.
Yeah, they cut it off. So
Right.
the cruiser pulls up, but the video cuts off and then we lose it. So we don't have it.
Correct.
I didn't
so,
cut it
but
off on you guys.
But people may have thought, well, you know, she's a female and she's there with two bikers. No, another cruiser came up. So she had backup in order to stop him from driving.
Yeah, at that point, or she could have consulted with the other officer. Now, that's a good point in that. I agree with you completely. There could have been a consult with the other officer and get his opinion if he thought he should be taken for DUI just because he was on the bike with the keys in the ignition, because with the keys had to be in the ignition because the lights were on. And again, in Wisconsin, it's all about the keys. If the keys are in the ignition, even if you say, officer, I wasn't driving, I was cold, I had to turn in fact, that was a case I had once in a university parking garage where a young girl, she was in her 20s, I want to say 21, 22, her and her friends were all in this Jeep and they had the windows down and it was freezing. I said, what are you girls doing? And they said, oh, we're just warming up. We're warming up. I said, well, you really can't just be sitting here idling in this parking garage. I said, you're putting exhaust everywhere and people that are coming here to get in their cars, they can't breathe. I said, you're going to have to just move along. Well, then I noticed that she did not seem normal to me. And so I contacted her and I said, look, I think it's best if you just park this car and you don't drive. Well, she said, no, I'm not. And she literally almost hit me. She ran it, put it in reverse and out she goes. And I'm like, shoot, like this is not going to go well. So I jumped into my squad car and started following her, called for backup, followed her all the way up to the UW-Madison Capitol building, which is about 5-minute drive from campus at the most. And I had all three signs within 2 minutes of following her. She was weaving, she was swerving, and she was stopping erratically and speeding up erratically. So I did end up pulling her over. Backup came. She ended up going to jail. She was like a 1.8 or something crazy. She was very, very intoxicated. But had I not been there, she was planning to go all the way to the outskirts to a town 30 miles from Madison, driving her friends drunk like that. So I really was in the right place at the right time, but not quite fast enough. Because if I would have been able to react a little faster, I would have told her to hand me her keys or she was going to jail right then and there. I would never have let her drive if she wouldn't have just rammed it into reverse and taken off like that. That was a shocker.
For people who don't know, if they don't ride, and I am a rider, your lights, you cannot have those lights on unless you have the keys in it and they're turned on. Those lights would not have been on his bike had he not had the keys in it.
Correct.
Right. So we do know that the keys were in it. We do know that he was on the motorcycle. We do know that another officer arrived she could have consulted with. So we have two components to this story. We have the fact that he was serendipitously contacted by the police because of an unrelated noise complaint that was unrelated to him. And then he gets contacted again at the other bar because of an altercation that happened. So this really was a travesty on a lot of levels, Cara. And again, we are so sorry. And we are sorry if we sound kind of mechanical or like when I have to talk cop talk and when Annette has to talk nurse talk and in the chat box when they ask you these questions and they're blunt because everybody cares and we all want to help you. So we have to be somewhat businesslike to do this. Your family, your sisters, your family, they can all do the emotional thing. And when this is all figured out at the end, all of us that go on this journey with you, if it's everybody in this chat tonight and everybody else we pick up and replay, then we'll get emotional at the end. We'll do that. We'll come back together and we can cry together and we can do whatever. But for now, I have to stay laser focused on thinking like a cop again. And Nat has to think like a nurse again. Anybody else in the chat who's got background in law enforcement or nursing or working at an establishment like this, we all have to think like that so that we can help you figure this all out. Because this one has got a lot of layers. It really, really, truly does. Okay. Is there anything else that we should, I'm trying to think if I have anything. I have the 911 call, but I think we'll play that in part 2 because I'm hoping to get the other 911 call, the one from the bar. So we'll save the 911 call, which this gentleman made, because I think it's interesting to listen to him because he is very concerned about his safety. So that tells me something. That tells me that maybe this particular bar doesn't have as good a reputation as we think it does. Maybe there's stuff that's gone on there before. Why is he so concerned about being anonymous and not wanting the owner or any of the patrons to know that he's complaining about the noise? So that's kind of an interesting.
I do have a question. I have a question for Cara.
Yeah.
You've looked at the report. You've been to that bar before, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize any of the names on the report as people you have met before?
No. I don't know. It's funny, we hung out to ourselves. So like other than the bartender, and I don't even when I went, I remember most of the time because they had their Christmas stockings hanging up. Which it's weird, but they did. Like when we had gone there, the times that we had gone, so all their names are hanging up. So like I recognize Dawn's name on there, but no, I don't know any of the people other than the friends that he was with originally. I knew them, and then they were the ones that had left.
So this wasn't like a hangout where you guys were there weekly and knew everybody. It was just like a bar you would go to occasionally.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, okay. Charlie. Cabbage Patch he went to, well, let me say that he hung out at Sorry Charlie's a lot. That was one of his favorite places to go. I didn't go all the time. When we rode, we stayed on the Daytona side most of the time, so it was closer to home. But
good questions. Very good questions. So I put up what Jenny said. Key in the ignition. Officer can smell alcohol. How is that not a DUI? Yeah, in Wisconsin, it's absolutely a DUI. So I will find this out, Jenny, and I will let you all know when we come back for part 2. We'll have a lot of these questions answered because we'll have the police report. I will be able to look into the statute and the laws. So let me quick pop back up to the slide deck just really quick because I want to show you, I think I put it, did I take it away? Yeah, I did. Hang on a second. Yeah, I want to show you, where's that other, I don't want to get a different view up here. Hang on. There we go. I want to show you guys a little bit about the stand your ground law in Florida. So let me, there it is. Okay. It might be hard to read. So I will type it on my Twitter account, and I'll actually also put it in the replay. So the stand your ground law is in Florida it's a law now. They turned on the law. It has to do with allowing a person to use deadly force in self-defense if they feel that they are perceived in an intimate threat, in an intimate threat. So intimate threat is life or death, guys. And that there's a lot of rules and restrictions even for police officers of what they're allowed to do with the force continuum, when you can move from your pepper spray to your baton to your gun, or when you can actually put yourself into a police chase, a high-speed police chase. Most of that all has to do with imminent threat. So that's what they're saying for the stand your ground law in Florida is that, and the person that is protecting themselves, who is standing their ground, they cannot be engaged in a criminal activity. Let me go back here. I'm trying to figure out. There we go. They cannot be engaged in a criminal activity. They are in a place where they have the right to be. So they can't be somewhere where they're not allowed to be, because then they can't use the stand your ground. They have to reasonably believe that they are going to present death of themselves or harm or intimate threat to someone else in that particular area. And that is the only way that this can be used in the state of Florida. So from what Cara has told us, the fact that that person went out to his car and got a hatchet and brought it back in, that should completely dismiss the stand your ground right there. Because then he's the one with the weapon. He's suddenly it's Jason's option to use the stand your ground law. The script has flipped here once this other person went out to get what's considered a weapon. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, it does. I do want to ask you to point out, I know you've looked at the report, and I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but I'm looking at the report.
Yeah.
The amount of time between the call, the dispatch, and how long it took the officers to get there.
And I did. Yeah, go ahead, because I don't remember.
Okay. So the
Write it
initial
down.
call went in at 1942. I'm a nurse, so I use military time just like Kat does.
So does the police, so that's fine.
Right. So it was 3 minutes until the dispatch went out.
So that's
Then it was-
7:42 for all of you on a regular clock. That's 7:42 Eastern time.
And then it was 3 minutes before they were dispatched. Then it was 10 minutes before they arrived on scene
Correct.
for a 911 call.
Yep.
10 minutes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this bar is out in the middle of nowhere. It's good 10 minutes. It's a good 10 minutes from New Smyrna Beach proper city. It's probably 15 to 17 minutes from the beach side. So for any reason,
but it's during bike week.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have had officers all around that county near the biker bars. They know better.
Yeah, and they might have, but again, we don't know until I see all the police reports and find out how many were on duty that night. We don't know how many other bars were having situations at the same time. It's very possible because of what was going on and all of these bars were crowded. I'm not overly concerned with 10 minutes because again, this bar is out in the middle of nowhere. So it's not, if they were doing the Volusia County Sheriff will do like a loop, because I'll see them even when I'm driving around. They'll loop from, it's a lot of coverage, guys. They'll loop from New Smyrna and then all the way up to Daytona. Port Orange comes first. Then you keep going north, then you're in South Daytona. You keep going north, then you're in Daytona. Keep going north, you're in Holly Hill. That's where I live. You keep going north, you're in Ormond Beach. That is all Volusia County. So they will go up the strip, which is US 1, up the beach side. They'll go down Granada Boulevard to the 95. They'll go back down the 95, which is 25 miles back to New Smyrna, down the 44, back in. So it's one big, huge circle that these guys that are on route patrol will do. That when they get calls, they may be on the 95. And if they have a call all the way over to Daytona Beach side to one of the biker bars on Main Street, that's at least 12 to 13 minutes. At least minimum, no matter where these these guys aren't just sitting on the corners waiting for bar fights to happen. There's lots of calls. There's domestic disputes. There's thefts. I know I sound like I'm defending them, but seriously, in that 10 minutes response for a bar that's out in the country is not that much. That's all I'm saying as a police officer. I had plenty of calls when I was a cop that on campus that took me 10 minutes to get to from one end of campus to the other in traffic. So I would be concerned if it was 15, 20, 10 minutes. I'm not overly concerned. Chat, if you want to weigh in, everybody can have an opinion on this. I'm just giving you mine as a former law enforcement officer. ETA times are not always as clear, as they can be or make sense to you. The 3-minute dispatch time, that's not a problem to me at all because my best friend was a dispatcher and it can take time to figure out who's my closest squad. Is everybody on a call? And that can happen. There can be nights where everybody's on a call. Then you have to call in a corresponding agency. Like they could have called in New Smyrna Beach Police, which I believe they did. They could have called in Daytona Beach Police. They could have called in Ormond Beach Police. They had 3 police departments all right in a row to call in if all their squads were busy.
This was a county call, right? Not a city call. Do they have city officers there too as well that they could have sent or not?
It's a county call because the bar is not in this. It's not in the city of New Smyrna Beach. It's in the town of Samsula. They don't have their own police department. So when there's these small municipalities, these small municipalities that are all surrounding New Smyrna Beach, Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, they all then that goes to the county. Now the county can almost assuredly always call for backup, and they did. Cara said that New Smyrna Beach did come as backup and secured the scene. So we will get police reports from them as well. Anybody have anything to add right now?
I'm just a girl. Remember, I have questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Cara, do you want to just kind of let us know then? So they took your husband to, did they take him to Burt Fish Hospital or did they take him to Daytona Beach to the Halifax?
I don't know where they took him. They did CPR on the way while they were there. I don't know where they took him. I could not.
So how did you get notified? How did you get the death notification?
The detective came to my house at 2 a.m.
At 2 a.m.?
Yep. 2 a.m.
And what time, according to the coroner's report, was he pronounced dead?
8:30.
So at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, he's pronounced dead.
Mm-hmm.
And you are not notified until 2 a.m.
I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not right. That's a problem for me.
Yep.
Because he had his license on him, right? So they knew who he was. They knew his address. You guys were obviously married and living in the same home.
And
yeah, that's
I also looked at the time that the case report was closed out was at midnight. The police report said that it was completed at midnight.
Yeah, that's a problem for me. That's really a bizarre amount of time for notification of next of kin. I don't think I've ever heard of it taking that long. Now, there's times where they can't find next of kin, or they've called and they can't get a hold of next of kin, or they can't verify address. There's always reasons why it takes longer than you think it should. But in your case, you lived maybe 17 minutes away from this bar, approximately?
Yeah, and it's crazy. I can't do it without. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Take a moment. Take a moment.
Because he wasn't home and he did not come home. So I was out looking for him. So I answered the phone immediately when it rang. And I was driving around looking for him because he always came home.
Yep.
So I answered the phone the first time they called.
I was going to ask you, that was my next question. I was going to ask you if it's possible you weren't home because you were out looking for him, which is what most people would have been doing. So that makes total sense. It doesn't sound like they even tried to find you prior to midnight.
My children were at the house. I have teenage boys. Neither one of them called me and said that anybody had come to the house. Not at all. Until, like I said, the detective called me and told me that he needed to talk to me. I never forget that phone call. And I told him, no, I'm not having that phone call because I know what it means. And I know, I watch murder shows. I know what the phone calls mean. And then as soon as we got off the phone, my oldest son, they're twins, but he's the older one. He called me immediately and he said, Mom, there's cops at the house. And that was at 2 a.m.
Wow.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Why in the world that it took them that long to do a notification to you? And that'll be a question if I can ever get anyone to answer it, over there at the sheriff's department, that we'll definitely have for them. Absolutely.
I do have a quick question for Cara. He had a cell phone, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Did he have a lock on it that nobody could get into?
It did have a password on it, but I was blowing his phone up. Like
So they had possession of his phone, correct? They gave you his phone.
They did not give me his. No, ma'am. They kept all of his stuff. I didn't get his phone back until 2 months ago.
Yeah, they would have had to have, Annette, because at that moment it was an open investigation. There was no way to know why he died or how he died, or that's an open investigation. They could keep everything that he had on him, his wallet, his phone, anything.
Yep.
And what were you listed as on his phone?
Freckles. Because I have freckles. But I think if you have somebody's phone in your possession and it's ringing every 8 seconds that it hangs up and then somebody calls back, it's kind of obvious who it is, which I'm not blaming them. They had a lot on their mind, I'm sure, but it was very late when they contacted me. Very late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very late. So I mean, I'd like to know their explanation for that. Definitely.
I would just like to say something for people who are watching this then.
Mm-hmm.
There is a thing that a lot of officers, Kat, can attest to this. If you put somebody under the term of ICE, ICE, that is a trigger for that is the person in case of
Mm-hmm.
emergency.
Yeah. I wish
So
that was more well populated around because it's really
so
not. Most people,
let's
yeah.
share that.
Yeah,
Put
we can do
put
that.
your person, your next of kin, your emergency contact under ICE. So if anything happens to you and that person is calling, the police will know in case of emergency.
Yeah, thanks, Annette. We'll share that out. We'll put that out on Twitter and Facebook too, and then we'll mention it again in part 2. I just wanted to read DB. Thanks for being here, DB. My nephew decided he was too drunk to drive. He was parked and never moved the car, but was arrested because the keys were in the ignition. The car was not even on in Massachusetts. Yeah, I think that Florida. I would be shocked if Florida doesn't have the same law, but Florida has some crazy laws here too that don't make any sense to me that we don't have in Wisconsin either. So I'll find out, and you guys are going to find out too, because I'm going to let you know. Ashley Steele, thanks for being here. Really appreciate the support. It's the same here. My BF went to jail for DUI. He was outside the truck, keys in it, and they smelled it and took him. Yeah. Yeah. And what state are you in, Ashley? Are you in Massachusetts as well? Or are you here in Florida, or where are you? Just want to know.
Yeah,
Amber,
I'm listed. I have my husband, ICE husband, and he has me ICE wife.
Okay,
just
good.
So we can help other people if something happens.
Amber, do you want to pop up and tell your story with just your voice, opposed to me having to read your chats, or is your voice still too weak? Amber lost her voice and she's had a bad cold this week, guys. So that's why she's not on camera with us tonight.
Cara, I personally want to thank you for having the fortitude to advocate for your husband and your children.
Thank you.
I cannot imagine what you've gone through, and whatever we can do, whatever closure we can give you, I'm so happy to be able to do that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Jenny, I just want to get to your story here. I'm trying to go back up and find where you originally chatted with us because I missed it. If you are willing and want to, in part 2, share your story with us, we can do that. We can bring you on the platform, and you don't have to be on video. You can just be audio if that's what you appreciate and want to do. But we're happy to hear anybody wants to share any story they've had with drunk driving or with officers letting them leave, or not letting them leave. I mean, I think it's helpful. It's comforting for Cara to hear others' stories. And we'll definitely make time for you in part 2. If you would like that, you just send me an email. I'll put my email up here in a minute, and you are welcome to join us. And all I have to do is, I think I've got Amber up here. All I have to do is just send you the link to the screen room where I can bring you up on the platform. Oh, Ashley,
I just want to say hi to Deidre. I love that woman.
Great. Hi, Deidre. We're glad
Hi,
to have you.
Deirdre. Ask Deirdre if 3 minutes is long for dispatch.
Yeah, Deidre, I forgot you're in the house, and I was talking about the dispatch time from when a call comes in until it gets dispatched to an officer. I personally do not think 3 minutes is long. You have to figure out where all your officers are and who's available and who can go. And I don't find 3 minutes to be long at all, but I wasn't the dispatcher. Deirdre was. I was the one being dispatched. So Ashley Steele said that happened here in Florida. So I think that's more PC, probable cause, that Florida does have that law. So I will definitely look into it though and prove it to you guys one way or the other. Oh
yeah, Deirdre said that's not long. Oh no, that's DB that said that, but I'm curious what Deirdre has to say about that.
Yeah. So Amber, go ahead and share your story with us.
Okay, this is a true story. So I'm medium smart now, but when I was young, I was not very intelligent. Um, and so I did very ditzy things all the time. So when we were talking about, is it a crime or is it considered DUI or OUI if you're sitting in the car with the keys in the ignition? I didn't really know 100%. I'm like, I need to look that up because when I was 21, 22, was leaving a bar with a friend, had maybe one or two too many, and was sitting in the car sobering up after close. Because I'm like, I can't drive and I don't really feel like waking my mother up. So let's just sit here. All I need is maybe like an hour or two, you know? Ultimately, what happened is some cops pulled up because we were the only car in the parking lot at that point. And they're like, what are you doing? And I said, sobering up. I'm too drunk to drive. I swear to God, I just like readily admitted it to them. And they're like, okay, well, you're going to have to get somebody or get out of here within like the next hour. And I'm like, okay, or whatever it was. And they let me go. So when you're telling the story about, I felt like the police officer, I don't know what the difference was in my case versus Jason's case. And why more intervention wasn't done. Was it because I didn't indicate that I was going to drive and Jason didn't assure her that he wasn't going to? I don't know. I was just curious about that.
Anybody have anything to add to Amber? And what are your thoughts about that? Where were you, Amber?
This was in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Do we know what the law is there? As far as you weren't driving yet though, right? You were just behind the wheel?
The car, I don't remember if the car was on or not. I believe the car wasn't on.
Okay.
I think it was warm and the keys were in the ignition though. We were just sitting there listening to music. Probably turned
keys in the ignition is the big deal. But I have to tell you, now that I'm really rethinking this, I think in Wisconsin that if you're sitting behind the wheel, that's enough because that shows intent to drive. So this is a good lesson for all of you. If you ever think you're too drunk to drive, get in the back seat of your car.
Right.
Do not sit in the front seat.
I can tell you from Illinois, which is adjacent. That's one of the reasons Kat and Amber and I connected. In Illinois, if you even have the keys in the vehicle and a cop pulls up and they see you, if you even have the keys in the vehicle, you are arrested for DUI. So it depends on the state you're in.
Yeah, it does. Every state has their own laws for the nuances of it. But the key factors are keys, where you're in the car, and obviously that you're intoxicated. It's just always best to call a cab. That's really the bottom line. Don't get in your car. Don't show any intent to possibly drive your vehicle. Call a friend, call somebody you know, call a cab. That's it. That's what you have to do when you are drinking and you know that you should not be driving. Jenny, you should definitely email me. It sounds like this is something I would like to speak to you about. It sounds horrific. I'm very
Hey, Kat, but
so
I
sorry.
want to point out today, there really isn't.
There
really is no excuse.
Amber, I'm sorry, just 2 seconds. I was just talking to Jenny in the chat. Jenny just shared that her boyfriend was shot and here in Port Orange, and that it took 18 minutes for them to respond to the call. So I definitely would like to know more about this, Jenny. If you, Cara, do you know Jenny?
We know each other because of our cases.
Okay, well, you go ahead and give Jenny my contact information if you wouldn't mind.
Kat, I'll put your email in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Amber.
Deidre, you can get Kat's information from Sean, and she would be happy to have you give your input.
Oh, yeah, Deidre has my contact info. She knows how to reach me.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on a chat together, so it's all good. Thank you, though. Thank you, Annette.
Okay. I just saw a comment she made. I need to ask questions and get more information.
Oh, yeah, we've got a chat going. We're happy to have you, Deidre. Anything you want to add to this case, if you want to come on for research, we're happy to have any volunteers that want to help us research, because that is
go ahead.
I messaged
Deidre, or Pat, why don't you go ahead and say what we were going to put up on X?
You go ahead. Go right ahead, Annette.
Okay. So we were actually discussing in our group chat, me and Amber and Kat, if there are any researchers that would like to be part of cases that come in or would like to give their input as experts, please reach out to Kat. She will be happy to coordinate all of that. Any input is greatly appreciated in any case.
Absolutely. We, like I said, right now we have literally 6 open cases that we're covering, that we're doing lives on. And we have one right up the road for all of you in Florida, in Ocala. That is, where is Sarah Ebersol? And if you go on our channel, Social Change Warriors on YouTube, you will see that we've done already 3 interviews with Michelle Tullis, who is Sarah's sister. She has been the private investigator literally on her sister's case, because the Marion County doesn't appear to be looking for Sarah anymore. If they are, they're not doing it in a very open way. They've had plenty of persons of interest, plenty of suspects. No one's been arrested. And it'll be 2 years that she's gone missing in March. So we are working pretty heavily right now with Michelle to try to find ways to get attention to her case, to try to help find out what happened to her sister. There could possibly be domestic violence involved. We just don't know for sure. But we've done 2 lives already, and one half a live where she was included in our New Year's special on January 2nd. Be Your Own Best Friend. So if you're interested in that case and you want to catch up with us, because we're going to have her back on the show in a couple weeks, go in our library, go to the live tab, and you can watch the case, our 2 episodes on Where is Sarah Ebersol. She is a Florida girl, born and raised right over there in the Ocala area. So I would like to...
Wait, can I quickly say 2 things?
Yeah, you can say more than 2 things. I'm just looking for our email.
Sorry, I didn't want to get past where we were with that. 2 things before we move forward. Deirdre, who was a former dispatcher, says 3 minutes to dispatch a call is not normal unless it's a non-emergency. So I don't know how it was called in, if it was called in as an emergency or a non-emergency.
So Deirdre, I'm going to ask you a question, because I think that can be different depending on where you are. Like I was saying, this bar is out in the country. Volusia County is huge. So on any given day, there's a lot going on here. I mean, you've got so many bars that could have been entertaining Bike Oktoberfest. You've still got all the regular calls. You're talking about a large area between New Smyrna Beach and Ormond Beach is approximately 35 miles. So I do think that things are different based on the department and what the landscape is of the department and how long it takes to figure out who can I send to this call. I don't know. I guess for me, 3 minutes just doesn't seem like that long, but I respect your opinion, Deirdre. Absolutely. You were a dispatcher, but I can also see the difficulties that go on here in Volusia County with the sheriff's department and with what a big area they have to cover. It might have just taken that particular dispatcher a minute to figure it out. Like, who am I sending? I'd like to interview them.
I can.
Hang on, Cara, go ahead.
Well, I can.
Yeah, just a minute, Annette. Kara's going on. You guys are talking over each other, so.
Can solve y'all's problem. It was called in as a disturbance. He was just being a disturbance. And the bartender wanted to disconnect and just call back if anything happened.
Okay. Well, that makes a big difference.
Makes a lot of sense.
But I would like to say, Kat, I want to ask you, and I want to ask Cara as well. I was reading through. We do have the call dispatch, and I would, if Deidre is interested and would like to look at it, we do have the transcript from the dispatcher. So if Deidre would like to look at it, we would welcome that.
Yes.
100%.
We have the actual transcript of the call to the Cabbage Patch?
Yeah, it's just redacted.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I see what you mean. That's redacted, but we're going to get the non-redacted here real soon. So I think we'll just wait, Deirdre, until we get the non-redacted.
But if Deidre would be interested in looking at that and contributing, we would greatly appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, Deirdre. Whatever you have time for and you're willing to help with, that would be spectacular. I'm going to scroll the email on the bottom. I just have to get it to work. There we go.
I did put it a couple times in chat, and Deirdre did follow up her chat comments with saying that it did matter if it was, there were a lot of factors that would matter. So 3 minutes in essence couldn't be, depending on how the call was made, could be okay. So that clears that up.
And again, depending on how busy and crazy, I mean, there were times when I was working that we were literally all on a call. So if there was some type of an emergency call, we would have to get pulled off of a call, and then we'd have to call Madison, City of Madison for backup, or City of Middleton. I mean, any given night for a dispatcher, and Deidre knows this, can be hell. Trying to get everybody where they need to go. And especially when every officer is on a call, and then you have to call municipalities in as backup and send them to the old call and decide if you're sending your officer to the new call based on where it is on the continuum. It's a lot. This is why I said to Deidre a couple shows ago when she was on, I think the dispatchers are the heroes of everything to do with police and fire, because what they have to deal with in that small dispatch area that they're in with their computers and trying to get everybody safely where they need to be is really amazing. Really, truly is amazing. Okay, I got the email floating on the bottom. So I do want to hear from you, Jenny, I believe, about what happened to your significant other. I would like to know about that if you're willing to share that with me. And thank you for the openness of all of you in our chat tonight, sharing your questions and your thoughts and your own personal stories, because that really does help. Empathy is huge. And when you can share your personal stories with someone who's gone through the same thing as you, or maybe not the exact same thing, but even close, that empathy is so helpful in healing. Anything else that we want to add tonight? Because I definitely want to keep it at an hour and a half, and we're just 5 minutes over now. And then we will have another live on when we get the unredacted police report, when we get any other body, if we get any body footage, if we get any cameras or any other, and the 911 call, the actual 911 call.
Not sure you saw Deidre Sargent's response. She said she would be happy to review when you get the 911 unredacted. She'd be happy to review it and connect with you.
Right. Great.
And I want to thank Cara for being brave. And we're going to look at everything we can to get you the best results and the answers you need and want.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate y'all. I really do.
Can I ask one final question, Cara?
Go ahead, Amber.
And if you can't answer, that's okay. You can say you may not want to share it at this moment, but have you reached out to any attorneys?
Yes, I have reached out. So again, in the beginning, we didn't know what had happened. So it was just an accident, that's what we knew it as. He just died of a heart attack. That's what they had said. So I reached out. I actually did get an attorney that would take the case. Nobody in Volusia County would touch it. Not one person. Not one person in Volusia County was interested. So I did get an attorney that's down south. I actually, again, crazy, Kat, I gave you their information. I don't know if you reached out to them today, but they immediately called me. It's really strange, but I was busy at work. I haven't really heard from them.
Crazy how that works, isn't it?
Crazy. I've emailed them 3 times in the last month and a half and haven't heard from them. But hey, they called me today and I happen to be really busy at work. But I do have an attorney, and they are pursuing a lawsuit with the Cabbage Patch, but they're not pursuing a lawsuit with anyone else. And I don't agree with that. I don't understand why they won't.
Well, the good news about this is in depositions, you're going to get a lot more answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the silver lining about this. It doesn't mean it can't go further at some point. This is the start. And I'm glad that there is an attorney that's willing to help you, because unfortunately, sometimes we don't get the help that we need and we deserve without an attorney.
That's right. It really, this is why they go to law school, because they know how to handle the law. Yeah. They know how to handle police and the questions and what's the law, the statutes, they can read them and understand them that's their job. That's why they're educated in that capacity. I just wanted to read Kate Williams. Thanks for being here, Kate. Does the investigation have to be closed in order to get a hold of a body cam footage? No, because right or wait.
Yes.
No, I think it does.
As an open case would not give it to us.
Yeah, they won't give you. Well, again, every state could be different, but from what I know of, all you're ever going to get out of the police in an open investigation is a redacted police report. Like, for example, Sarah Ebersol, there is a 216-page police report, and I received a couple weeks ago, 31 pages of it, all redacted. And Michelle, Sarah's sister, has never received the redacted. She's called and called and called, and they will not send the family the redacted police report, but they sent it to me in less than 24 hours. Crazy. So that's at Marion County, just about an hour and a half from here. So I've called the detective. I've called the detective's administrative assistant. I've left messages for records, and nobody's calling me back in Marion County because that case is considered open because Sarah is still missing. So that's another, both of you, I'll have to have you meet her at some point because you both have been through tragedies and you only live an hour and a half from each other, and you're both dealing with suspect behavior of police, and of your cases have a lot of twists and turns in them. So I think that would be beneficial for you and Michelle to meet. Oh. Yeah. All right. Does anybody have anything else for Cara tonight, or for Amber or Annette or myself? Because I'm going to give you, for those of you that don't want to stay, you're welcome to go. I'm going to just give a little update for those in the chat that have been with me on these other cases, just a quick update on things that have happened in the last week since we were live. And then Cara, you and I will speak probably daily for a while right now. We're going to get to know each other. I'll have to come down and meet you in NSB at Chase's, and we can have a meeting in person, which is really unusual because most everything I do is only online. So this is sort of a benefit. I was planning to meet Michelle in person at some point as well in the next couple of weeks, now that I know I can drive. So thanks to my knee being a little bit better. Cara, thank you for your bravery. I know that was incredibly hard for you. I can't imagine. And thank you for going over, what was really difficult. Next time will be more difficult because we're going to talk about the autopsy report. We're going to talk about the actual cause of death. We're going to talk about more again about how many people actually held him down and why and what the injuries were. And it's going to be hard. And I know it's just incredibly brave that you're willing to do this with us, but we do want to help you. We want to get down to the bottom of this and help you find closure, and however that looks. If it was a stand your ground, then so be it. But at least we'll know that, because you really haven't been given that information. And the fact that the coroner actually came to your home, I find the detective he came to your home. That's not unusual. But when they ruled it a homicide, when it was ruled a homicide, you were never told that.
Correct. He told me that my husband was sick and dying.
And that's just inexcusable. I mean, that's probably the biggest red flag of your entire case. Somebody about to die of something else does not excuse what's happening to him at the moment. So what is he trying to say to you? That, oh, well, it's okay that your husband was murdered because he was probably going to die in a couple months anyway of cancer. I mean, that's absurd. That's beyond absurd.
Yeah, my father-in-law actually asked him that. He said, so you're telling me that if you get stage 4 cancer, I can choke you to death and it's okay? And he's like, well, no. And he's like, that's what you just said to me. His exact words to him. That's what my father-in-law asked him. He said, you're telling me that you're trying to justify my son dying because he had cancer. He said that doesn't justify it. So
no.
Did he have a pulse? Did he have a pulse when the officers arrived?
No, ma'am. He was unconscious, not breathing when the officers got there. The officer put him in handcuffs, rolled him over, and then started chest compressions. That's how
Were
it
the
happened.
handcuffs behind his back?
Yep.
Wait, what?
Don't quote me. When the responding officer got there, and I was going to add this in, but I didn't want to hold us up. I think the thing that's most crazy, the 2 officers that were with Jason at Charlie's, the backup officer that pulled up is the responding officer that had to try to save his life. So the guy,
according to from a medical aspect, what I read was what the coroner was told was they had both of his arms behind his back. They had him face down, and they had their knee in his back, pressing him down against the floor.
Mhm.
Correct.
Well,
And
why? If
that's-
he was he moving? Like, I mean, if he's not breathing, how is he moving?
The responding officer's police report states that when he walked in, there was 3 guys on top of Jason in a chokehold. Still, he was non-responsive, not moving at all when he got to him. They got off of him, and the officer put him in handcuffs, realized he wasn't breathing. It said he put him in handcuffs, realized he wasn't breathing, and he flipped him over and immediately started chest compressions. According to witnesses in the report, it says that Jason struggled, or he tried to get up multiple times and they wouldn't let him. He was not moving when the police got there at all. No, nothing.
Wait, so are you
Oh.
saying that's incorrect in the report, or that he at some point regained consciousness and was getting up?
He fought to get up, and then he went limp and never moved again. He tried to get up when they put him on the ground.
Gotcha.
And then
Thank you.
But
yeah,
it's still very unclear how many people
Men.
were actually involved in this restraining of your husband. That's not clear yet, correct?
correct. I know from the responding officers' body cam footage, from what they told me, there for sure was 3 guys on him. The guy that had him in the headlock and the 2 that had him by the arm. The 911 caller says there's 6 guys on top of him.
You know what's funny to me is that Daniel Penny got charged in New York for 90 seconds of having a chokehold being too excessive, and he was acquitted, but they actually went through with that case. And there's no further investigation in the case of Jason. It just doesn't make any sense in my mind.
Kat and Cara and I actually had that conversation last night.
Yeah, we were talking last night about that. So
Sorry, I missed it.
Jenny put up that was an ex-Marine and he knew how to kill someone and not kill someone in that hole. Jenny, expand on that. Can you? Then Deidre
I think
wants
she's
to know,
talking about Daniel Penny.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure what that was about. Okay. Deidre wanted to know, why was he being restrained in the first place? Right, Cara? Like, why did that escalate to that? Right?
They actually have not told me what Jason did to cross the line from being a disturbance in the bar to the guy going and getting a hatchet. So they've never told me what Jason did other than yelling in the bar that he was the baddest Republican around. And later on, the detective said, well, he did punch one of the guys in the arm, but they ignored him. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're a man, no offense, any man, or even a woman, if I want to fight somebody, we don't punch you in the arm. But they didn't say what he did to cross the line for that guy to get up and go grab a hatchet. What the detective told me was the guys wanted to restrain him until the officers could get there to arrest him. So they had taken it into their own hands to be the judge, executioner, and jury. They were deciding that they wanted to restrain him so he could get arrested.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry. No more. I understand your husband was a good sized man. Hmm? My husband is 6'1", 240 pounds. But it would not take 3 men on the ground to restrain him. They could have grabbed him by the arms and sat him in a freaking chair and held him there.
Correct. Correct. I agree.
Yes, they could have done so many things. I mean, the actual manager of the bar, who was ever in charge, should have been involved in this somehow. And they could have just escorted him outside. I mean, there's so many things they could have done. So this is going to be very interesting now to get the unredacted police report, because this will help us shake some of this out and try to understand this more. And I did put in a request, like I said, to speak to the owner of the bar and ask if if any of the staff still works there that was there that day would be willing to talk to me. I don't know if I'll get any response, but I'll try. So Jenny is saying that he was trained. He knew what was excessive and what was not in that hold. So
Talking about the guy that strangled Jason.
yes, I know she is. Yes.
And he was trained in infantry. So he would know the holds.
Now, how did you find that out? Because we don't know this person's name yet.
The guy that choked Jason, I know his name because people
do.
I don't know. I sent you of him yesterday and his information I sent you a text.
Okay. Okay, good. I'll add that to our file, to our deck.
He and I know he posts about it all the time on Facebook that he's ex-military, military.
Okay.
So brags about his military experience on Facebook.
Okay. I'll look into him tomorrow then. I missed that somehow.
Marine,
I thought it was Army. I personally, but don't quote me because I don't know. I thought it was Army.
Because if it's Marines, it's a different story.
Yeah, I thought he was trained in infantry in the Army. But again, don't quote me. I just know that he was in the military.
Here's the other question that hasn't been brought up because I'm sure people they're probably going to ask later. So maybe Cara can answer it about the video footage from the bar itself.
Well, that's the problem. They're saying that their batteries were dead and that it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So what does that remind you of, those in the chat that have been following the Karen Reed case? Missing footage, inverted footage, missing
the ring
minutes
cameras from the officers who lived across the street from the home he was found at, and the house that he was found at. Oh, we didn't have it on. We were putting a new one up.
All right, kids, ladies and gentlemen, if we have any gentlemen in the chat, I am going to wrap this up for tonight because I do have just a quick update on our other cases. Nothing too
Thank
important.
You so much, Kat. I'm going to get out so you can do the rest of your
all for Cara.
This was Cara.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Thank you for all your great questions.
I love
Annette.
you, Amber.
Amber and Annette.
Love you too. Thank you. I'll step off too. Cara, thank you so much. You're very brave.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you both. Annette, thank you for all of your great questions and your commentary coming from a nursing perspective. That was so helpful. Amber, thank you for coming on. Even though you haven't been well, you always have a great way of looking at things and have great questions. So thank you to both of our Social Change Warriors ACT team. They're the Agents of Change tactical team. And if any of you are interested in being part of us or being with us, please let me know. We're always looking for volunteers. And Amber and Annette are the first. So we're glad to have them. Cara, thank you again so much. I appreciate you. I will be in touch with you tomorrow. We'll continue to go over everything that comes in, and I'll look into this character for good or for bad and what his background is. And we'll just continue to look. We will look and we will figure this out together over the next few months, however long it takes us. And we may run into some roadblocks, so we may have to stay very persistent. Thank you to everybody who was here live tonight. I really appreciate it that you care enough about Social Change Warriors and the cases that we're covering and the victims and their families. And those of you that were new to us tonight that came with Cara, thank you for supporting her. You're welcome here anytime. The replay will be available on YouTube. If you have questions and you want to go back and watch pieces of it, email me the questions to the email on the bottom of the screen, acttmsw@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you ASAP. So we will be letting you know on Twitter and on Facebook when we will be doing our part 2 with Cara as soon as we get this unredacted police report. And I will be talking to you very soon, Cara. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, I just want to give you a couple quick updates. So I have been a little bit of a busy bee since tonight is normally our Angry Bitch Club night. I will share a few buzzing words with you tonight. So some of it's good, some of it's not. So in the Ellen Greenberg case, Ellen Greenberg was found stabbed by her fiance on January 26, 2011. and she has never received justice. They ruled it a unaliving, and they want all of us to believe that Ellen Greenberg stabbed herself 20 times, 10 in the chest and 10 in the back, including a laceration on the back of her head and several to the base of her neck. They want us to believe that. So we have an episode that you can go to our Social Change Warriors library, go on the live tab, scroll down, and you will see Ellen Greenberg. And watch that when you get a chance. We would love to have as many people as possible help us out with this case and get awareness going for Ellen. I am 100% convinced she did not stab herself 20 times, and there's thousands of us that believe that. There's 42 point some K on the Justice for Ellen Greenberg Facebook page that don't believe that. And there's many others that we've picked up along the way, thankfully, trying to help out her parents who have been through hell and back since 2011 with multiple lawsuits, multiple appeals. We're now waiting for the judge. They did go back into court in November, or was it December? But we're waiting for the judge. There's supposed to be a decision coming down very ironically close to the anniversary of her death. So I will be live streaming with Annette and Amber and hopefully with some of her family members. I was very fortunate today to find out that the Justice for Ellen page passed along Social Change Warriors information to her parents. And I now have ability to contact her mother. I've been given permission. I'm very touched by that. That touches my heart because I have been following her case for many years before I was even on social media. And now we've been live streaming about her since August and tweeting pretty much daily, trying to get the word out that we believe that she was in a domestic violence situation with her fiance and that this was an orchestrated framing of her for her own unaliving, which is completely unacceptable. And there appears to be corruption involved with government and police. So this is not pretty. This is not a good look for Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. And so we're hoping that the judge will realize that after all the evidence that was presented to him some 8 weeks ago now, and rule to overturn the unaliving medical examiner to a homicide and begin finally since 2011 and find out who killed Ellen Greenberg. So if you can take the time to watch our live on that we did a few weeks ago, or come to the one we'll be doing in the next couple weeks and help us support Ellen and her family, we would greatly appreciate it. I have no updates for Sandra Birchmore. There are still no more arrests from what happened to her as a young child, where she was groomed by the Stoughton, Massachusetts Police Department. I'm saying that because there were so many officers involved. It might as well. It's not that big of a department. And they, again, all these corrupt criminals, corrupt police, corrupt government, they think we're all stupid. It's just really insane to me that they think the general public is just complete idiots, I think, because they sell us this line of crap and they expect that we're going to believe it. But most of us don't, because most of us are smart and we don't buy their crime and corruption. So Sandra Birchmore was groomed from the age of 13, not by just one officer. If they want to continue to expect us to believe that, well, that's not happening. And she has a whole lineup of people behind her now, and many other live streamers, many other content creators following her case. Only one person has been arrested, the one that we believe, that in our opinion, murdered her, and coincidentally, same as Ellen Greenberg, framed her for her own unaliving. Her death was ruled an unaliving for 2 years. And finally, the FBI, I guess, got involved from what we understand. And then there was evidence, and this person, William Farwell, was arrested several months ago now. But all of the other complete horrible, disgusting humans who were police officers in Stoughton and helped with the grooming, and we don't know if there's other victims, they are still out there. They have been fired. They have been relieved of their duties, thank the Lord, and they have been stripped of their law enforcement license. But they're still out there. They're not accused. They're not in jail. They're not, nothing's happening to them. And they participated in this grooming of Sandra Birchmore for many, many years. So I don't have a court. There's no court date yet for William Farwell. It's been pushed. But we will let you know as soon as we find out. There is no new information on Suzanne Morphew in Colorado. That is almost a cold case now, sadly. They have never rearrested her husband. They arrested him and let him go several years ago because they did not find her body, and they felt enough evidence to go through with prosecution and to convince a jury that he was the one who murdered his wife. So he was released, and he was released where there's a way they can release you with or without prejudice. He was released so that he could be rearrested if the evidence ever comes to light. They did find her body in April, and we have not done a full episode on Suzanne yet. We've had a lot of cases since August, and unfortunately we've included her in many of our live streams, but we have not yet done a full live on her to give you the entire lowdown and to get your opinion on this case. So we will be doing that in February. And we're sorry, Suzanne, that it's taken us this long to really, truly, completely stand for you. But it's sad because your case is just sitting there now. There doesn't seem to be any updates, no persons of interest, no other suspects. But I do believe, in my opinion, this was a domestic violence situation. There's just way too much evidence pointing towards her husband. But again, my opinion and my opinion only at this time. That is where we stand with Sandra Birchmore, Ellen Greenberg, and Suzanne Morphew. And Sarah Ebersol that I talked about earlier, we are just new to her case, and we've been getting to know Michelle, her sister, and we will continue to update you whatever. Michelle has a Facebook page, and so I shared that out on my Twitter, and I'll repeat that so that if you want to join Michelle and her Facebook page, she has the timeline on there, her daily updates of posters that she's putting up in the entire Ocala area, which is a couple counties over to my west, and I'll be meeting her in person. And again, I'm on it. I mean, I've made phone calls to the Marion County Sheriff. I've requested the redacted police report. Got it. It's not much. It's 31 pages, but Michelle and I are going to live on that 31 pages and at least tell you what things we didn't know, because they never sent that to Michelle. They have refused to give her the 31-page redacted police report, and I still don't know why. So those are the updates that I have. Karen Reed updates, we're going to have to do a live on that. There's too many. There's too much going on. And the same with Aiden Kearney, Turtle Boy. He won the case. I believe he won his case yesterday, and he no longer has a restraining order against him from what appear to be fake accusations that were made against him regarding an assault. So there's a lot of updates right now. There was Dr. Marie Russell, the expert ER doctor. They did another voir dire of her, which is absolutely ridiculous and insane, in my opinion, and in many other people's opinions. I watched it yesterday. It was ludicrous. The way the prosecution treated her was so disrespectful. This is a doctor with years and years and years of ER experience, and she was a police officer out east when she was young. When in the 1970s, she was a female police officer before many women were even allowed to be police officers. This woman's career is stellar, beyond stellar. Her accolades, her education, the papers she's written, the amount of dog bites that she treated in the ER in Los Angeles County, and they treated her like she was just literally nothing. It was so disrespectful and so terrible. And so I just can't even begin to cover that tonight because I really wanted the show to be about Jason and Cara. So we will live on that because there's just too much that I want to talk about. And I want to get all of your opinions that have been following that case as well. So yes, crazy Julie, love you, girl. Ridiculous, too much on Karen Reed. Yeah, this week has been full. So we will have a live next week on everything that's gone on with Karen Reed. That second trial, the first trial was a hung jury. The second trial is not coming for a while. We have, I think, until April, right? Or wait, is it July? No, I think it's April. So we will do a live just on that. So my Facebook actually is not Social Change Warriors yet. I haven't started a separate page for us. So it's still under my name. So if you're looking for Social Change Warriors updates, it'll be on my full name page. It's Catherine, Kathern, Felton, Felton, Page, Paig. That's what I'm using right now for Social Change Warriors. But I am going to create its own page like you can do on Facebook. So there'll be a separate page just for Social Change Warriors. I don't use Facebook a lot personally. My other Facebook page is just for my high school. So if you run across that one, That one has pergolders in it, which was our our mascot. That one is just for my high school. So if you join it, that's fine. I'm fine with it, but I'm no longer doing posts on that one like I was. I've started using my private one again, and then I'll create a separate like page like you can do for Social Change Warriors. I'll get on that in the next couple of days. But I am on Twitter X. Don't love it there. It's a shit show most of the time. Sorry to swear, guys, but Twitter X is just insane. I've been bullied, called names, questioned about my law enforcement record, questioned about my social work record. Just unbelievable. It's just been unbelievable. But some days it's good, and good things happen. Like I forgot to tell you guys, I met a woman named Nicole who was on our January 2nd Be Your Own Best Friend Live. She found out about the Ellen Greenberg case 2 months ago, and she just has been just so in it. And she's been constantly posting about Ellen and constantly trying to get the word out. And we met based on that. So I invited her to come to our January 2nd show and talk about Ellen Greenberg with us. And then she said she started sharing my tweets with Nancy Grace. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Nancy Grace is not going to pay attention to Social Change Warriors. But she did. So I ended up tweeting to Nancy Grace's Twitter account and asked her if she was going to do another show on Ellen Greenberg, and telling her that we are a very small startup channel, but that we're standing for murder victims and we're standing for unsolved domestic violence cases and crime and corruption, calling out crime. And she actually wrote back and replied, or her media person did. I'm not quite that naive to think it was actually Nancy, but if it was, that's great. But even if it's her media person, they actually responded and thanked us for our work and told us that they will continue to call out the Ellen Greenberg case. So I wrote to her then about Sarah Ebersol and said, would you consider covering this missing persons case in Florida? And I haven't heard back yet, but just to get a reply from that account was very important today. It really made me feel like a lot of the work that Amber and now Annette has recently joined us that we're doing is making even the smallest of difference, makes me feel really good. So thank you to all of you that have subscribed to the channel, that care about crime and corruption in your communities, that care about victims who don't have any answers and do not have justice yet, because that's what we're trying to do. And we want your support and we can use your help. And we will be back next week, and we'll always let you know when our shows are on Twitter, on social media, any Facebook accounts. And also you can just go to YouTube to our page, Social Change Warriors, and you will see all of our scheduled lives. You just have to click on the live button and all of our scheduled lives will show up. But we'll try to give you as much announcements as we can. But we do really appreciate your support so much. And so our hashtags are just us. That was thanks to my mom. That's what she used to say, that sometimes when you're fighting for justice, you have to remember that it's us. We are the ones that have to do it. We can't rely on other people. So that's how I came up with the hashtag just us. And then we're using hashtag My Life Mattered for all of our victims who do not have answers, who do not have justice yet, because everybody's life matters. And when they have passed away, they deserve justice for what has happened to them. So we'll continue that. So I hope that you all have a good weekend. We are off tomorrow night. Ed and I decided to reschedule. I'm still battling this laryngitis and these darn COVID symptoms and still trying to rehab my knee. So Ed and I are going to reschedule for next week, and he's going to bring us up to date on what in the heck is going on in Clark County, Indiana, where the corruption has just been insane. So if you have any family or friends that live in Clark County, Indiana, or in the state of Indiana, you might want to tune in. We did a live with Ed a couple months ago. It's just outrageous what's happening there as well. It's just mind-boggling that there's so much crime and corruption going on in police and government. There's still good ones though, guys. We have to keep remembering that the crime and corruption component is still less than the good cops and the good politicians and the good people in your community that are trying to run your cities and run your towns. There's still more good than there is bad, but we have to get rid of the bad. It's our job. That's our job as humans, as community members. So thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. Any questions, any comments, feel free to write it on the replay. And thank you, replay, to all of you that watch. We really appreciate you as well. And share us out and share out the names of our victims. And if you see something, say something. Do it safely. Do it as best as you can to protect yourself, but it's really important. So have a good weekend. I hope you get to watch some football because that's what I'll be doing. And I'll be seeing you all next week. It's just us. Take care, everyone.